When we change the revelations, when we tell you to do one thing and then later on tell you to do something else, bringing you something better. The peaceful verses of the Quran, you be your religion and to me be my religion. That was Mecca. There's no compulsion in religion. That was the first of the surahs of Medina, right? When he got there, and there's Jews and pagans in the city. The verses we quoted from chapter 9 of the Quran, those are the final marching orders. That was one of the last 2 chapters revealed, the last major surah revealed. The other is 110, it's very short, it's only a couple verses. So, Allah's final marching orders, the ones that abrogate, the doctrine of abrogation. Verses that come later, cancel. Verses that come before, if they contradict each other, you can't reconcile them. So, as a Muslim, what do you obey? Oh, I'm going to go obey the earlier revelations that I like better. It's not how Islam works. It's not how Islam works. So, put all of this together. All of the wonderful, nice teachings of Islam, those have been canceled. They've been abrogated by commands to fight the unbelievers, to fight the hypocrites, to not be friends with the Jews and Christians. If you do, you're one of them. You're not a real Muslim. The only way you get to be friends with Jews or Christians is if you're pretending to be friends with them. And again, just to be clear, I'm not saying the Muslim down the street. The Muslim down the street doesn't know any of this. He probably doesn't know one verse I quoted to you. Certainly doesn't know any of the hadith I quoted to you. So again, don't think someone's telling me Islam is peaceful and wonderful, therefore he's lying to me. No. It would be more educated Muslims. It would be maybe Muslims from certain groups who actually know what Islam teaches and are going to tell you something different. But think about this. You're a young Muslim. You've converted or you've grown up in a sort of Muslim household where, again, you follow the basic practices, but your family's not trying to do any of this. And then you get the message. Do you really believe in this? That's what they're asking you. That's what the ISIS recruiter is asking you. Do you really believe in Islam? If you do, let me put it all together for you. Allah means exactly what He says. He demands complete obedience without second guessing, without thinking about it. Complete mindless obedience to His commands and to the commands of Muhammad. They're perfectly clear. What He commands you, that's exactly what He means. If you try to reinterpret, you are committing shirk because you're saying you're better than Allah. So you have to go with exactly what He says. You recognize that there are conflicting verses here. He gives you the only principle you need for figuring out what you're supposed to follow. That's the doctrine of abrogation. So don't appeal to those earlier verses and think that that's what you're supposed to do as a Muslim. And if you want the context, read the context till your eyes fall out. These are what these verses mean. So you, as a Muslim, you now have a decision. You either go out and fight, you either go start killing the unbelievers and the hypocrites, you either start chopping the heads off apostates, or you sit here and live as a fake Muslim. What are you going to do? Now that, as far as I can tell, is a pretty airtight case for radicalization. That's the message that gets proclaimed by recruiters who are getting these young Muslims, and even a lot of times it's even Muslim girls and Muslim women who are going over there, to do their part in the jihad. How do you get around this? Well, there's only a couple ways around it. One, you can be completely ignorant, and most people are. You can be completely ignorant of what this teaches. That's a way around it. You don't have to deal with what Islam teaches if you have no clue what it teaches. So you can be completely ignorant of it. You could reform it. As certain Muslims want to do. We're going to reform this. We're going to bring it in line with modern values. Given what Allah says about His perfectly clear commands and demand for complete obedience, is that a viable path? Is that going to work in the long run? No, it's not, because I happen to believe that guy. When he says he wants to reform, I believe lots of people who say, this has nothing to do with Islam, I think they're trying to deceive me. Some, I think, wow, they actually believe this. Wow, they actually believe they can reform Islam. But keep in mind, he could reform Islam all he wants. There are always going to be people who say, if I believe in this, what do I need to do? How do I need to live? Well, I don't get to do what he's doing. I don't get to do that. Allah says I'm an unbeliever and a hypocrite if I do that. So I need to do something else. What do I need to do? Fight those who do not believe in Allah. If I show up before Allah, I don't have wounds on my body, I'm in trouble. I'm a deficient Muslim. If I die without fighting, I die in one of the branches of hypocrisy, I better get to fighting. I'm scared now. I want to get to paradise. Now I'm terrified. Well, I better go act like I'm taking this seriously. So I'd say there's not a lot of room around this. Again, you can ignore it, you can try to reinterpret and reform it, but at the end of the day, there are people who just aren't going to ignore it. They're not going to reinterpret. Once they believe, this is the word of Allah, I'm going to do my best to obey, and that's why you have ISIS.